and how the society should allow certain morals. That's the question.
Okay, so give us a quick rundown over what you perceive as being the Islamic position, official position.
I'm not asking for Islamic
position, or
hold on, I'm not asking for the Islamic
the,
position.
Well,
I'm asking for your position, because it looks like you don't have a standard by which you can actually progress in terms of what
I've just told you what
objective morality is. You're saying trial and error.
It's a process.
It is.
It's a number of things. It's a respect for the traditions and institutions of a particular society that you live in. It is trial and error, and in fact, that's
what I'm telling you.
The best way to find the best solutions over time. We're never perfect. It's like science. You're never actually 100% right, but you're kind of moving towards.
How is it the best solution?
Better. Well, you're always moving towards something that's better.
You know the example of abortion I gave you? Before abortion was illegal, they used to have quacks on the streets where the women used to do abortions. Yes, the women used to die, the baby used to die many times. And he's saying that's the best solution? Seriously? That's not the best solution. I think that is.
It was illegal. People felt the necessity to do it. So
why was it illegal? The question is, why was it illegal?
Because of the Bible, I guess. Because of the.
Oh, come on! Not every society. You know, when did the state separate from? Wait.
It was illegal because the church.
When did the church separate from the state? A long time ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
1648.
Yeah, and we had like 400 years after that to do the trial and error which you talked about.
Yeah,
so 400 years you had mothers and babies dying on the streets. Yes? And you think that's a best solution?
The position of women has been appalling for centuries. It's only in the last few decades that certain countries are really tackling with a will to sort out these ridiculous historic discriminations and cruelty against women, gay people and other minorities.
But that's the point I'm making. I'm saying, why did it take like 400 years for these laws to come into effect? For 400 years, the trial and error that went through, do you really think that was justified?
Because we always had people who wanted to go back to the past.
Sorry, people who always wanted to?
You know, it takes a long time to make people change their beliefs. So, like, their opinions. So it's like you always had the old generation who wanted to go back. I mean, not the whole
it's not about going back. It's about what the collective think. And that's the reason I mentioned about what the majority really wants. It's not what you want or I want. In a society, you can be a minority. Yes? Your rights will be overlooked. In this democracy, like for example, there were many people who were against the war in Iraq. In this country, you had 1 million people march out here, yes, to demonstrate and to protest against that war. The elected people who were who had the power to either to go to war or not to go to war, did they listen to the majority? You see, it all boils down to what they think is right. What is their, basically how will they benefit from it, rather than how you and I will benefit. You see, we are the small folk, we are the lay people here, yes? Our voices for us to get heard over there, it's not so easy. We have to make a lot of noise in order to do that. And even after 1 million people made noise, they still went to war. And guess what? On a false pretext of WMD, weapons of mass destruction. An entire country has now been demolished and destroyed. You're talking about generations and generations of citizens of those people have basically become refugees, have basically lost their parents, lost their livelihood, lost a lot of things. And that effect then carried on. Then you had people like Al-Qaeda filling in the gaps and the void, yes, causing all this trouble around the world.
It's all the West's fault, isn't it? Everything bad is the West's fault.
Well, whose fault was going to Iraq on war? You tell me. Why didn't you answer that question? You had 1 million British people basically protest against it.
I was one of them.
Thank you very much. Did they listen to you, sir?
That's a good thing about being Swiss.
You see, that's what I'm telling you. At the end of the day,
we should all be like Switzerland.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't interfere with other people's affairs. I absolutely agree
well,
with you,
Switzerland doesn't allow minarets of.
Yeah.
So they do interfere. So I'm not saying everyone, no one out there, trust me, not even Saudi Arabia is perfect. I'm not saying the West is bad and the others are good. I'm not saying that either. All I'm saying is that if there was a standard objective morality, then we could all come to terms with that. But because we don't have that, we have these wars and we have this chaos perpetrating around the world. And this is the issue I see. When you become basically devoid of an authority which can actually make the law, and who has the authority to make the law, then what are you left with? You're left with yourself to make those laws. And as human beings, we always will make mistakes. And that's the reason you'll have to go through this trial and error until you come to a solution which at this time might be good, But in 100 years from today, you'll say, no, that was the wrong decision. So let's change the laws back. You see, this is not the right solution if you ask me. And that's the reason I'm asking you, what would be, from an atheistic point of view, or from an agnostic point of view, what would be your standard moral objective, moral objective standard?
But I argue that religious books also have bad things in it. Not everything. So people could also like take the bad things out of religious books, you know, and that would be the same thing. That then you would be on the same path as we. I mean, people.
How? Okay, give me one example. I don't know how much you know about Islam. Give me one example from Islam that you think is bad for the society, and that Muslims actually generally practice today. Give me one thing. Look, alcohol is banned. Yes, which is good for the society, good for the individual, good for the community. Yes, same thing with drugs, gambling. All these things are banned for a reason. Yes, the immoral, basically the aftermath of drinking and drugs and gambling. I mean, you can look around in our society, in this very society. Yes, every Saturday or Sunday, you go to central London, you see people throwing up in the streets. And these are educated people. These are scientists among them. These are teachers among them. These are people who basically instill morals into others. Those same people are puking on the streets on Saturday nights. And you know what? The NHS is basically choked on every Saturday night. Our tax money goes into this. Entertainment. Drinking is entertainment after all, isn't it? What other benefit do you get from it? It's social entertainment.
I absolutely agree with you.
There you go.
To a certain extent.
So my tax money goes into basically their entertainment, which they basically might hit another person using the car, kill someone, yes, just for a few pints.
Yeah, but that's just unreasonable people. I mean, if you drink reasonably,
you know, every alcoholic said that at one point, that I will drink reasonably. I'll be responsible. I'm not talking about you. I'm saying an alcoholic person. I'm pretty sure at one point he or she had said, I'll be a responsible person and drink responsibly. But you see what alcohol does to your cognition, you know that, right? After a few drinks. So at that point, your preconceived idea that I'll be responsible goes out the window.
Are you a responsible drinker? Yeah. Have you ever been drunk? Have you ever been embarrassed about being drunk?
Oh yeah, just going into my
Point taken. No, just an example. Sorry.
I know.
I was just showing you as an example.
I think it's when you sober up after having few drinks, that's when you realize how wrong you feel guilty, don't you? When you do that, because you see, this is the innate nature, your human nature, your body, which you have a right over, by the way, tells you what you have done to it is wrong. And by the way, I'm not talking only about alcohol. I'm talking about eating fatty foods. Yes, I'm talking about smoking. I'm talking about everything that harms your body. In my case, God has given me a body and I have a right. It has a right over me. Just like I have a right over my children and so on, my body has a right also over me. I have to make sure that I treat it well. So that's what I'm telling you. This is the standards that my religion has instilled in me. And to me, everything that has been prohibited is for a reason. It's for the good of the community. It might.
Can I take, for example, pig meat? You know.
Yeah.
I see.
Pork.
Sorry, pork meat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I see a historical reason why in some religion it was forbidden. I mean, it was because if it's not right, it's cooked right, then people got sick, and so it was easier to say, okay, don't eat that because it's not just, it's God's will, instead of don't eat it because it makes you sick.
That's your opinion, though.
You see, and that's the reason. No, she's actually right. That's the reason I told you that whatever has been prohibited, there's a reason for it. Sometimes.
But now it doesn't make
hold
sense
on.
anymore.
No, hold on. Sometimes the people, for example, the people who might not have studied science and so on, so probably our grandparents and so on, they might say, okay, God has told you not to eat this, it means not to eat it. They might not give you the scientific reason for not eating it.
They don't understand.
Yes, but you see today, hold on, today you know the scientific reason. So they were not wrong for not eating it at the end of the day. Even if God told them not to eat, that was because they believed firmly that there is a good reason for God telling you God has prohibited something. You see the point I'm making?
Should we be revising? Should you be revising, or Muslims then? Should you look at science and say, well, actually, we've now got refrigerators and methods of cooking that mean eating pork is actually quite safe. So the reasons that were given in the 7th century were fine and they're suitable for that day. But now our technology advanced.
Not necessarily, because even today,
what's the reason now?
Even today, people get ringworms from eating pork.
Yeah,
it's not because and these are these are sold in the supermarkets. These are sold in the supermarkets, so you can't say it's badly prepared. They have a standard procedure for doing that. So even today, they are still basically getting.
I mean, people who eat pork are not sicker than others.
Say again?
I think that people who eat pork are not going to be sick.
But they are. Doctors say they are. They're more high level. They're pig fat.
No, I'm saying that is what people at now realize. That it is because of scientific reason. But the real reason I told her that even people back then, when they were not studying science, God told them not to eat. That's why they didn't eat it.
You'll see that it's the most unhealthy. So while we might make the law that it's okay, the fact is God knows better than us. That's why the Quran doesn't change.
Say that God said it.
Let me explain. I know. I understand your viewpoint.
Basically, we are discussing objective morality.
What's
your favorite topic? You want to take one?
No, it's not that.
It's not my favorite topic.
It is.
I'm not here to debate, man. No.
So that's why he's playing
to discuss
For
morality.
example,
How can you discuss objective morality with someone who doesn't believe that a creator exists in the first place?
Now the question is, do you need objective morality? Maybe you can.
apart from death,
Well, then how do you know what's good and what's bad?
Yeah, that's exactly what the question
exactly
is
the
if I want to take my life, logically or socially, you can't say there's any problem with it. I'm stressed out. It's my free will. Let me do it. But God has said this is bad for you. So you can't just say, it's you said, there's many laws in there that are done because of society, etc. Yeah?
Okay, but
We discussed abortion, we discussed.
and you're not happy with this other person, that there is no possibility to get happy with this other person. Why don't you just split up?
Yeah, we can. In Christianity, divorce is not allowed, correct? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, not legally, according to the book.
So it's not allowed, correct? But in Islam it is. So we don't have a problem with it. Now, sister, we're allowed to, but we're not allowed to. Watch this. The law states clearly there has to be a proper reason. For example, I can't just divorce my wife because she's an old model and I want a new one. I better edit that. No, do you understand? Yeah? I can't just do that. There has to be a reason if she's doing something to me that's upsetting me, or I'm doing something to upset her. Or there's a
And by the way, she also has the freedom to divorce, not only him.
Yeah,
both
vice
ways.
versa. If the wife wants to divorce me, she can divorce me, but not for no reason. Again, if I'm doing something bad to her, I'm upsetting her, I'm oppressing her, then she's allowed to walk away from me. In Christianity, that's not allowed. But don't judge Islam. All I'll say to you is this, sister, before you carry on with Hashim, is that don't judge Islam with the same lens that you're looking at Christianity with. Islam is a total different matter. The laws, as I said to you, he clearly said, please do provide for us what laws in Islam are causing problems. Please do. You won't find them.
Can we go back to homosexuality?
That's a start. Andy, you're starting trouble.
I don't want to debate. I just want to go.
I just prefer to have a weird conversation.
It's Gay Pride Week.
Now we were talking about morality and objective morality. Who sets the standards and how do they set it in a society, for a society? Because to me, trial and error seems, it actually seems very backwards, isn't it? Because if you're going to do it by just trial and error,
That's the reason why I can vote.
sorry? And what good has the voting done? Like I give you the example of the Iraq War. What good has it done? The people in charge can still go to wars and destroy other countries just because they feel that is the best thing for them to do. They don't care whether you feel it's right or not. It's what they feel it's right and wrong.
Yeah, but that's a problem of. That's a problem of people who want to be mighty. You know, it's like it's still. We can do something against corruption. So it's not as if. Yeah.
It's an interesting example, the Iraq War, because you're absolutely right that there was huge public opposition around the world to it. But the Bush-Blair leadership and other countries, Germany, France, in particular,
the coalition came in later on.
So it wasn't the West, it was very specifically the neoconservatives in America and Blair.
Were they against it
was
to the
kind
point
of
that they
attached to Bush by some sort of umbilical cord.
Were they against
but what
it
was
to the point that
interesting,
they did
sorry, let me
something about
finish.
it?
What was interesting was that in this country, I can't speak for America, but in this country, the process kicked in. It was recognised that something really bad had been done. The processes to go to war had been skated over. There was doubts about the legality in the United Nations. And so what happened was that we had an inquiry that did last an awfully long time, but it reported last year. And it did what these inquiries do. It highlighted a whole number of issues.
Was anyone accountable after the inquiry?
Did anything
because
happen
that's
to
all.
Tony Blair?
That was the whole purpose of the inquiry,
It
isn't
could be
it?
just a big maze to diffuse us, because that's where it smells.
If it is
Does anybody account? It's a good question.
You know what happened?
That is the main question you should ask after the inquiry.
That's
The
what
problem
we're in
is-
on it, but the thing is, they use that to diffuse the situation. 6
you
years,
can say it.
10 years down the line,
Yeah.
let's say 100 years down the line, Native Americans are still crying over there, and we're barely even getting apologies for them. We could just wait in line, all right?
Sorry, Native American.
Native Americans are still
we're
waiting for
talking about Iraq.
apologies.
How did
No,
they
no,
get to
no.
Iraq?
I'm showing you.
No, no, no,
that-
the point-
He's talking about
this
the
process-
oppression.
Andy, this
He's talking about the
process
oppression,
of the inquiry into it, can be used as a diffusion tactic.
I'm not going to go into details, arguing for every detail
I
of
agree.
Western
You shouldn't.
foreign
No,
policy
no,
or
and I
policy.
agree. We're not
What I
questioning
do
you about
note,
that.
though, what I do note
Yeah.
is the West, if you want to call it that, is probably one of the few cultures that have ever existed that is so self-critical, so open, so
I would
yeah,
laugh
indeed.
at
That of course, you see all these things because they come out. Unlike an awful lot of other empires, I mean, the Ottoman Empire, for example, will not admit there was an Armenian genocide. Most historians say there was a genocide.
Are you taking the high moral ground here?
No,
Seriously.
I'm just coming back.
It
I'm
seems
not
like.
defending.
It
I'll
seems
start
like.
off by saying I'm not going to defend all these
Okay,
things.
let me
in
ask you
detail.
this question.
But there is a sort of constant barrage.
Do you know anyone other than the West who produces weapons of mass destruction?
You're talking about what? Nuclear weapons?
All WMDs.
Well, there is a kind of irony here because
Why?
the West
Why?
being most advanced technologically, obviously has produced the
So
most.
they are also capable of
efficient
killing the most,
weapons.
right?
Yeah, but-
Absolutely.
There you
Yeah,
go.
they-
So
yeah.
don't take the
What
high
you
moral
said
ground then.
No,
Because that's what you try to
Wait,
do.
wait, wait, wait,
By being
wait.
self-critical, what do you mean self-critical if no one is held accountable for the wars and the deaths that take place today?
I was involved in the campaign for nuclear disarmament in the 1970s. We're very self-critical. We have a.
And how has that worked out?
leader-
How has it worked out? You still have weapons of mass destruction. In fact, America has the biggest, what do you say?
There is work to be done.
Arsenal.
Yeah, biggest arsenal of nuclear weapons out there. Maybe Russia is next and other countries. That's what I'm telling you.
America
All
spends
this.
more on the military than the next 19 countries combined.
It's frightening. I mean, the fact that we're so.
The land of peace, by the way.
I think
Home of the
what's
brave.
ending, I think what the conclusion is that creating your own laws
Doesn't
isn't
work.
a higher.
It's not the best
It's
solution.
not the best solution compared to having a law that is by God, that is still. Do you remember what
Okay.
we started with? Yeah,
Because
it's
of-
secure. Because you can question those laws. By all means, we're open to that. That come and question those laws that are, enshrined in that book. But we can find us one that is causing a problem. However, when you start creating laws, you could be going 70 miles per hour maximum limit in this country today. Tomorrow it'll be 100 miles per hour.
You know, after all that trial and error, if you
random.
come down to a situation where the prime minister or the president can go to war on their whims, so whatever they feel is right, even though the United Nations actually disagreed with it, and millions of people here disagreed with it, millions of people across the pond disagreed with it, if they can still just go and destroy a country, do you really think we have really come that far? From the prehistoric era, where supposedly dark ages, and they used to go on rampages and this, like Genghis Khan and all, go and destroy others. What is the difference from that time to today? You tell me. In fact, the weapons that we use today, they can do it like from 10,000 miles up there without even knowing whom they hit. They might be targeting one terrorist while killing hundreds of little children.
Yeah, but that's
How is that progress? You tell me.
Yeah, no, it isn't. But I mean, we can try to abolish it. I mean, we can try.
You can try to abolish it? Seriously?
No, we
You
can.
cannot abolish something that the powers today want in basically in their control. You can't. You and I can only voice our opinions, and that will die out very quickly, like it did for the million people who marched against the warrior. It just dies out. That's all it does. And to me, the system is not working. If you ask me.
But you say,
If you see the chaos today, wait. If you see all this terrorism today, yes, basically that's an aftermath of what people in other countries, because of the foreign policy of this country and other countries. And this we have seen time and time again. If oppression goes unchecked, yes, unaccountable, unpunished, then surely you will have consequences from that. Yes. Look at those people who basically consider themselves to be suicide bombers in Israel, for example. How many people were suicide bombers before Israel was occupied? Did we hear of any suicide bomber in Israel at that time? No, we didn't. It's only later on when they waited 50 years, when the lands had been basically forcibly taken away from them, when they had been thrown into these refugee camps like dirt, like animals. It's only the aftermath of that. And by the way, I'm not justifying that what they do is right, but what they did is basically out of desperation, if you ask me.
Yeah, but I'm not arguing that they were right. I mean, I'm against it.